of roaches, a death ball of lings, and just 1A, and Protoss couldn't force field everything, and then they would end up losing. I think it's more effective for Zerg to split up their armies into little bits, and that would require more force fields for the Protoss to use. So we'll fast forward this a little bit. Again, so with that in mind, I'm just trying to place my force fields to try and wall off his army as much as possible. Again, I got the queen comes over, force field over here, prevent the queen. So here I'm able to trap a couple of roaches. This is pretty good over here, around 10:30. I have one force field in place, so this is kind of interesting. This is a concept, I don't actually have a name for it, but it's when you have an existing force field. This is mainly used as a defensive means. If you're in your base, you're defending against like banelings or whatever the case is. So you have one force field placed already, and an enemy's movement makes contact with that force field to try and go around, because it's not a full wall. And then you could use the pre-existing force field down here to add additional force fields and trap his army, because of the way he moved and the way you place your additional force fields will make kind of that force field prison. So we have the mineral field here acting as a little bit of a buffer. We have this pre-existing one here preventing a little bit of movement, but now if we were to force it over here and down here, we can trap a couple of these roaches and then fire at them without taking any damage, because we have the higher range. And that's basically what happens. So we are able to trap about 6 roaches in a small area. A lot of players do that too versus like banelings, and they try to get side storms off or whatever the case is. Now, I did lose a sentry here. That was kind of bad on my part, because I am losing sentry. You really need to be careful with those. Try to put them in the back. I tried to pull in the back, but he went down and the force fields ran out, and he was able to snipe it. So that was good by Jshore. Jshore should always want to, or any Zerg player, Terran, should always want to focus fire these sentries down it, no matter what, in the early game especially. We'll fast forward again. We'll get to the last battle. Those two weren't as good. And the last battle has another good, something important to note. Where he had his Corruptors, he had his Lings and Roaches. I had Colossus, Stalker, Sentry, Immortal. Kind of a standard army you would expect from both sides. He also had Infestors, and I had the Death Ball himself.
I don't know where you are in the replay, so I'm just listening to you go over this. I can remember everything.
It's fine. I'm at the last battle, the round 18:30. So we're gonna.
Yeah, where I learned that actually losing a natural as Zerg sucks. So I'm gonna do that to every single Zerg I play.
Yes. If you could.
I can probably get away with it in Plat and Gold.
I got away with it in Masters.
I mean, it's a pretty good thing to do.
Yes.
So.
It all comes down to the force fields. It really does. So here we see the engagement. Zerg's attacking the Protoss player. He's sending his Lings in, he has his Roaches, and he has his Corruptors. Corruptors and Roaches are pretty close. Lings are a little bit further out. So I'm able to force field. I put up some force fields diagonally. In hindsight, I probably could have put it down across to the left. Would probably have been a better use. Put one here and one here. This is kind of my instinct, because I don't really have a complete idea if he's rallying more, or if he's flanking. I want to have this one down here, just to help me deal with these Lings. That was my main thought process. But judging by his army size that I can see now, I could have probably just went right across the left side. So I'm able to trap and take out majority of these Lings. I put up one here to prevent the Roaches from coming down to the left. Now the Roaches can't get in. The Lings are able to get through these small cracks that you can see over here, and that's okay. This wasn't even intentional. It was if that happens, Roaches are too big. And then now that I have the wall set up, and the Lynx can pass through, and the roaches can't, all I need to do is back up, so I get out of the range of the fire of these roaches, which you'll see. I back up. Now the roaches can attack. They're all the way in the back here. They can't range me. I can still attack with the Colossus, as well as my Stalkers and Immortals and Sentries. He attacks me with Corruptors too. Of course, the Corruptors are flying. They aren't affected by the force fields. So what you want to do is try to pull your Colossus back himself as much as you can, and keep your Stalkers on hold position, and target fire these Corruptors down with your Stalkers. This way the roaches aren't. You don't really need the Stalkers right now. You target fire these Corruptors and then return fire to the roaches. I think the last battle is just he gets his Infestors out now. So I set up a couple of force fields. You don't want to just go crazy. I have a lot of energy. I really could afford to spam them everywhere, but I only put enough to assess the situation. I put up a couple. You notice that these aren't all connected. I'm not actually. These are okay too. I'm not actually trying to limit his army. This goes back to the concept before what I talked about, the pre-existing force fields, that I have those set up. Those are kind of like those hurdles he has to go through. He doesn't have a good concave, and that if more army struggles through, like he gets his reinforcements or whatever, I can add an additional force field to that one to create the wall, or put one in the middle if I wanted to. Because I don't want to force field half of his army off now, because I have the bigger army. So there really wouldn't be a point to, attacking 3 at a time now, because of the fact of just sheer numbers. So it's still important to throw up the force field just in case those numbers change, and you could use that to your advantage. Still want to play carefully, is what I'm saying, with your force fields. Alright, jump out of this one. What do you say we do some quick cover? Let's hear you say something, Jshore. It's been me talking everything. My voice is killing me.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's such a retardedly huge skill gap, I combine the two, in force fields that can make a huge difference. It's an ability that's overlooked by the other two races as being the most easy mode, overpowered ability ever. But using them creatively and using them effectively without overlaps really sets skilled Protoss players apart from, like, me. Like, I was just watching Minigun play, like, 2v2s, and he wasn't even playing seriously, but all of his force fields were flawless. Unlike those huge 2v2 maps with the huge ramps, he would block them with 3 force fields, and that's all you need if you place them perfectly, and he did that in like a half second without any issues. I mean, it takes a lot of practice, and
that's what it is.
If you can get it good, it's really rewarding, and that's what makes other people call it overpowered. But
they don't realize how much effort goes into making that.
It takes into making it that effective, yeah.
It's like you try to practice stim packing. It's like, really, you need practice to use stim pack?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of another ability that the other two races have that takes such
practice.
That can be used in so many different ways and takes such a long time to get good at. I mean, it has a ton of options, but you have to be creative and you have to know what you're doing.
Right. Pretty much. But it's definitely rewarding if you get it down. I'm going to show you really quick if I could get in here, start a game.
Did you invite me?
I didn't.
Okay, so my game's just
I'm
quitting.
I'm just doing a quick game's
Yeah, I'm gonna see if it unfreezes.
Oh, it's frozen. I didn't invite you.
Oh, yeah, I know. I joined.
Oh.
Wait.
There was I started.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm just doing a quick overview real quick, just talking about, I'm not going to play a game, just talking about force fields and showing you how, like you were saying with the 3 force fields, couldn't cover a lot of area. Something simple like that.
Mm-hmm.
And showing you if you place them correctly, how much of a span you can get versus stacking them. And I'm going back to Metalopolis on this one. So we're just going to do a simple build. Just get our sentries out. Anything else you'd like to add about the force fields, Jshore?
They're very frustrating if you don't know how to use them right. Because you will lose a lot
if you're playing
to missing a single force field if you're playing Zerg.
Zerg or Terran, I mean, Anyone, I get your point. It happens to everybody.
Zerg is a lot more clutch. I mean, you cannot get by without really good force fields against Zerg until you get a death bow. Because they are going to have 50 supply up on you, and you have to micro perfectly to survive that.
Right, so force fields, of course, being very important. I think one thing that helps you learn force fields, other than micro trainers, and practice just for the sheer repetitiveness of playing ladder and playing as Protoss, is I'll actually go into replays that I've already played and just look at my force fields, and this is what I'm going to demonstrate. And I'm gonna see, if I won a battle, lost a battle, what I did with it. And there are players, I don't do it myself, but there are players who try to create up, like you were saying before, with useful, creative ways to use your force fields. Like I saw players doing War Prism drops with like a Zealot and 3 sentries. They'll drop in the mineral line, prevent the SCVs from running away. I think White Rod did that. And use the Zealot to kill the SCVs because of the fact that he force fielded the mineral line, can't get the SCVs out. And that's pretty creative. That's definitely something that you can come up with, you can create. I've done, I've walked up a Zerg's ramp and force fielded the ramp. Of course, everybody knows a force field on the ramp. Leave the units on the low ground, keep the units on the high ground. I mean, it's tough. It's not easy to do. It sounds easy. Oh yeah, you just force the ramp. In hindsight, that's really all you're doing. You're force fielding the ramp. But it's all about the process, getting enough energy, getting there to begin with. Why are you on his ramp? You're in his base. That by itself is a combination of factors and all. And if you could become successful with your force fields and practicing and figuring out ways to use them, then you definitely will become a very, very good Protoss player. It'll create situations where if you micro correctly, and it comes back down to the microing, that you can win with a smaller army because of the fact that you use your micro to your advantage, your sentry numbers. Get some gas, get a couple of these sentries out. I'll get them out early so that I can get a lot of energy. I think I require more Vespene gas, Jshore.
Yep.
Alright, got a handful of these sentries. And I'm gonna quickly, as my energy accrues and I get more Vespene gas, show you a couple things. So we're
using pylons as a mineral sink.
Basically.
And a smiley face.
Interesting looking smiley face. So we're going back to the area where Jshore was with the Stalker Sentry Force against the Roaches. Now we were talking before, I just want to try and visualize what I was saying in words without drag clicking. How many force fields we could have used to block this passage. We had one force field somewhere around here. It was somewhere in the middle of this area. It was somewhere like over here. So we had a force field here. I was saying that we could have had like another 2 force fields, make a total of 3, to block this area down to the left, creating as much. If you can see, we're using these force fields. We got a lot of area. We got a huge span that we can cover if you place the force fields correctly. If you were to do something like this, that even I do sometimes, it doesn't really go as far as we can see. It's kind of, if we stack our force fields, it goes literally half the distance. And it doesn't seem like a lot. You really don't notice it unless you are anal about it. You go into your games, you watch your replays like I do, and if you really want to practice and get better at your force fields, go into those replays and see how you force field it, and look at the ways that your opponent goes through your force field, and see after the fact, after the game, after the replay is over, how much distance that force field, if you use the same number, so you like Jshore used 3, and I just showed how much distance 3 force fields could cover.